everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Montefusco and I'm a lover of all things when it comes to makeup, fragrance, and beauty. And today I have a tag video for you all. So Samantha March, I believe, created this tag. It's the eyeshadow palette tag part 2. So I'm going to be talking about a bunch of eyeshadow palettes in my collection that personally I really love or that fit the questions of this tag, all of that. So if you want to see some eyeshadow palettes in my collection, hear me answer these fun questions, then please keep on watching. All right, so let's get started. So the first question is, what is my all-time favorite eyeshadow palette? And you may be surprised by this answer because this is a palette that I've gotten within the past year, but I absolutely adore it. Hint, hint, it's my favorite neutral palette of all time. And that is the Signature palette from Vanity Makeup Cosmetics. This palette has the best formulas I think I've ever tried in my entire life. So I will open this up and show you all what it looks like. Of course, as you can see, you have a variety of cool tones and warm tones in here. I love how this palette is structured. Each matte has a corresponding metallic or shimmer that goes along with it, which I think is just a really nice idea. And for someone who likes to be organized, I absolutely love that. These three metallics in the middle, this one, and this one, these are all a very chunky, metallic, sparkly formula. They're absolutely stunning. It's probably my favorite metallic formula I've ever tried in my entire life. While the first shade and the last two shades are more of a classic shimmer, which personally, I'm not that much of a fan of those. They're fine, they're good, but they're not as special as those other three metallics on the bottom. That is what really makes this palette for me, and the mattes blend like a dream. This palette is just really, really awesome. It's worth the hype. It hasn't gotten nearly as much hype as it deserves in my opinion, but it's worth the hype. It's expensive. This palette I think retails for about $100, so it's pricey, but the packaging is identical to the Pat McGrath packaging for her Mothership palettes, and the eyeshadows are made in Italy, and apparently that's better quality, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But all I know is I absolutely love this palette. It's my favorite neutral palette, and it's my all-time favorite palette in my collection thus far. So question number 2 is a new favorite eyeshadow palette. So I want to talk about this palette right here. And this is the Blend Bunny, the Dollhouse palette. This is also a neutral palette, but it has a twist, which I really enjoy. So if you open up this palette, this is what it looks like. And I really love how Blend Bunny's palettes are formatted because they, again, just make sense to me. Each column is a clear color story in here. And as you can see, there are warm tone neutrals, green tone neutrals, rosy tone neutrals, neutral neutrals, there's all types of neutrals in here, and each column makes sense. But you can also really play around with colors in here because, again, they're neutrals and they're pretty easy to mix and match. So this is a neutral palette for someone who owns a lot of makeup and wants something different, or this is a neutral palette for someone who is a little bit afraid of color but wants something a little bit more interesting, or this is a neutral palette for someone who's just starting out their collection and they want a bunch of really beautiful neutrally tones. So this is actually the palette I'm wearing on my eyes today. I adore this palette. I love Blend Bunny's formula. This is no exception. I just think this is a lovely palette, really unique. It's a new favorite. I got it, I believe, in January. So yeah, this is a very new favorite, but I really do love it. So the next question is a palette I keep for the memories, and I'm gonna have to say this one. This is the Shroud Cosmetics and Butte Bean. I believe she changed her name now to Batty Bean on YouTube, but Betty Jean. It's freaking Bat's palette. So I do really like this palette. I don't reach for it probably as much as I should, but I do really like it. And here is the color story. So the reason why I say I keep this for the memories is because there's a lot of memories associated with this palette. The launch for this was absolute chaos. And yeah, basically you had to order within 30 seconds in order to get that first pre-order. And then after that, people were waiting months and months and months and months and months and months and months to get this palette in the mail. Even I, who got on the train for that first pre-order, waited a very long time for this. So yeah, A, that's a memory associated with it. B, I ordered this palette when I was recovering from a tonsillectomy. I believe it was the day or the day after I got my tonsils out. So your girl was loopy and in pain and was trying to order this palette while being loopy and in pain. So that's a memory I will never forget, but I got it. And C, I also will always keep this palette for the memories because this was my first ever YouTube video, was filming with this palette, because, you know, I got on that initial pre-order and not a lot of people did. Even the big beauty gurus didn't get this palette in PR or get on that get on that initial pre-order because they thought they were going to get in PR, but they didn't because the launch was a mess, all of that. So that video actually got quite a lot of views because there was a need for content on this palette at the time. So yeah, that is why I really will keep this palette for the memories. I think it's a beautiful color story. I love the grungy tones, the greens, the purples, the teals. I think it's really unique. I don't reach for it as much as I should just because, you know, it's not every day I want to wear those kinds of colors, but I feel like this palette works for all different types of the year and has a lot of good memories associated with it. Next up is an underrated palette, and I'm gonna go for this one. This is the Ace Beauty Oceanic palette. I never thought I would say that this palette is underrated. Ace Beauty recently reformulated all their eyeshadow palettes because their formula previously, I'm just gonna be honest, I think it was crap. Their mattes were just patchy, didn't blend well, super frustrating to work with. Their metallics were so dry and crumbly and just not very pretty on the eyes. And now I have to say, this formula is stunning. It finally matches with this color story. I've always loved this color story. I own the OG Oceanic, and I only kept it because I love the colors. I hated the formula, and it didn't make me want to reach for it. But now the color story I love also has a formula that I love. These mattes are so much easier to work with. They're not patchy. They actually blend, thank God. These metallics are so much more buttery and sparkly and shiny on the eyes. They're just really pretty to work with. So for that reason, I think a lot of people who gave Ace Beauty a chance when their palette formula was crap probably, you know, maybe are not giving them a chance now. And so for that reason, I think this palette and the brand is underrated. I own 3 palettes from them now, and I think they're all great, and they're all the new formula. So I would say this palette is underrated because this reformulation is phenomenal, and I'm not sure if I would have tried it had I not heard about it from YouTubers that I watch because of my bad experience with the OG Oceanic. All right, so this question I'm kind of cheating on because I have 3 palettes, but they're a part of a series, so, you know, don't shame me for this. And this is not a favorite, but can't get rid of, and I'm going to go for these 3 palettes. These are my Sweet Shoppe palettes from BH Cosmetics. I have the Cotton Candy, the Bubblegum, and the Pistachio palettes. So these palettes, I don't really reach for them. I don't remember even the last time I reached for any of these, but I can't get rid of them because they were so hyped and they were so hard to get at the time that I ordered these. And BH filed for bankruptcy, and so, like, I don't know if we're going to be getting this formula or anything like this from them ever again or anytime soon. They're not the kind of they didn't file for the type of bankruptcy that makes them, like, shut down and liquidate all their assets. They filed for the type of bankruptcy that means they're, like, reorganizing, basically. But, you know, who knows if we're going to get these again. So this formula is really good. I just don't really reach for them, but I feel like I have to keep them now because of the bankruptcy news. So here's the Bubblegum one. Just a bunch of pinks and purples. Oops, I meant the Cotton Candy one, not the Bubblegum one. And then here is the Bubblegum one, which is a bunch of blues. Very pretty. I just don't use it though. And then the Pistachio, which is obviously a bunch of greens. So yeah, I don't use these, but I thought they fit in well with that question. I can't get rid of them now, I feel like. It's kind of annoying. All right, next up is my favorite collab, and of course I have to go with this one. This is the Kaleidos and Angelica Nyqvist Club Nebula palette. This is my first and only time so far trying the Kaleidos eyeshadow formula, and Angelica is one of my favorite YouTubers here on the platform. She introduced me to indie makeup, like, as a whole, and so I am very thankful for that because I love indie makeup now. So when she released a palette, I knew I had to get it. And this color story is just absolutely phenomenal. I love the purples, the pinks, the blues, the greens, all of that. This shimmer formula is phenomenal. The mattes for the most part are really, really good. There's just two mattes, Queen of Blades and Void, which is that dark blue and that dark green, that give me a little bit of trouble when it comes to blending and packing, but nothing that I can't work with. But overall, I really enjoy this palette. I don't really own that many collab palettes, so it wasn't very hard to like make a decision here. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite. Out of all the collabs, I adore this palette. It's great. I want to try more Kaleidos formulas in the future if they release any color stories that I'm interested in, but thus far they haven't, but I really, really do love this palette. All right, next is a 2021 fave. I would have put the signature palette if I was going to allow myself to repeat fat palettes, but because that's my like all-time favorite, I'm not going to allow myself to do that. So my 2021 favorite, looking at palettes I tried in 2021, what other palette stood out to me? And that's this one. This is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Surge palette. I absolutely love this brand. Like, they can do no wrong to me. I don't own their first palette, but I mean, I kind of want it now because it's all mattes and it's apparently phenomenal, like rainbow palette. But anyways, this is what this palette looks like. Again, the way this is organized just makes sense to me. Each column is a certain color story. You have everything from your lightest, almost pastel-y mattes that help you blend, all the way down to deep dark mattes that are great for the outer corner. And then you have metallics that correspond with it. This palette is just so smart. I don't know why nobody came up with this idea before. It's genius. But the formula is phenomenal. I love the mattes, love the metallics. I love the concept of this. The colors are great. I love a good colorful palette. And this one is just really great when you want a colorful look, but you want it to be pretty mindless. You don't want to think too much about it. This is a really great palette to reach for. And this is what made me fall in love with the brand. So it's a 2021 favorite. Next is a palette I did not expect to fall in love with. And I'm going to have to say this one. This is the Nars Climax Palette. Sadly, this is no longer available. This was my first time ever trying the Nars eyeshadow formula. I did not really have high expectations because, I don't know, I just didn't. But I saw this color story and I was like, ooh, that looks really pretty. And it restocked for the last time on their website. And I was like, it's my last chance. And I heard really good things about this from different YouTubers. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. So I did, and I really love it. This is a neutral palette, again, with a little bit of a twist. You have your, browns in here, but you also have some greens. You have a little bit of a blue. It's just interesting. It's grungy. It's pretty. It's a tiny tad colorful, but very approachable. Great for the fall and winter. I don't think this packaging matches. Like, why is it red packaging with like a grungy neutral palette? I don't really get it. But I did not expect to love this. I had low expectations for Nars, but I really like this. So yeah, this is a great palette. I wish it was available, but it's not. It was limited edition, sadly, but I really do enjoy this palette. Did not expect to like it. Next up is a palette that sparks joy. And how could I not say this one? This is the Glam Light Ice Cream Dream palette. I have it in its outer packaging that looks like an ice cream truck. I will take it out of the outer packaging and show you what it actually looks like. Here it is. I have content on this if you want to see it on my channel. I actually have videos on most of these palettes if you want to see them on my channel. But this palette, ooh, that almost fell. This palette is just a perfect pastel palette. It's pastels with a bit of punch. It's pastels with a bit of interesting. I just love pastels. In the spring and the summertime, especially the spring, if I want to feel happy and have some color, I'm going to reach for pastels. So this palette brings me joy. How could you not be joyful looking at all these beautiful pastels, And I love Glam Light's formula. I don't know how many times I have to say it. I love the formula. The mattes are great. The metallics are great. I don't know how many times I can say that without just sounding like a broken record. So yeah, and this front is so much fun with these little sprinkles, and it like flips and turns and stuff. I mean, that brings me joy too. I love it. So Ice Cream Dream, really great palette. I really love it. All right, 2 more questions left, and this next question is my newest palette. I think this is my newest palette, and this is the Pat McGrath Bridgerton palette. So I bought this because your girl loves Bridgerton. It's a great show. It deserves the hype. I think it's fun. I just think it's cool. The Regency era seems, I don't know, interesting. I like it, and I love a good romance. So I love the show, and I love Pat McGrath's formula. So when they did a collab, I was like, fine, I'll get the eyeshadow palette, and I'll get one of the highlighters, and I'll be pretty and a Regency gal, and blah, blah, blah. So this palette is basically Pat McGrath's good old rosy tone neutrals and a bit of a pop of blue. So this is nothing, you know, extraordinary or innovative for the brand. She loves her rosy tone neutrals. I'm kind of sick of it, to be honest, but I did like it. I bought it for the Bridgerton, to be honest. If this wasn't Bridgerton branded, I wouldn't have bought it. But it's a pretty palette. I like it. The formulas are good. I love Pat McGrath's formulas, and I love Bridgerton. So this is my newest palette. And last but not least, the next question, the last question, is the first palette I used in 2022, and I think it's this one. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's this one. And this is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. My God, this palette is so good. I don't know why I waited so darn long to pick this up. So I bought this during the Sephora Holiday Savings event. This palette was already 50% off. Plus, since I'm VIB Rouge, I got an additional 20% off. So I got this for a steal of a deal. And this palette is just, again, like pastels, but also some neutrals. And it's just absolutely stunning. I have always enjoyed Huda Beauty's formula that are in her smaller eyeshadow palettes. I thought they were good, but my God, she like steps up her formula in these big palettes, and I am never going to buy one of her small palettes again, because why would you do that when you get an even better formula in this palette? Like, geez. So these mattes are just so easy to work with. These metallics are stunning. They look almost wet on your eyes. It's a really stunning formula, and I just love all these colors, and I've been reaching for this a ton. Even in the winter time, I've been reaching for these pastels. I don't know why. I don't reach for the Ice Cream Dream in the winter, but I'm reaching for this in the winter all the time. So I really do love this palette. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorites. I cannot get enough of this, and I believe this was the first palette I reached for in 2022 because it's great. I just love it. So that is it for the eyeshadow palette tag Part 2. I hope you all enjoyed this video, seeing the eyeshadow palettes that I love, that are near and dear to my heart, and that I think deserve either all the hype that they get, or they deserve some more hype that they don't get. So if you like this video, please like this video. It helps out with YouTube algorithm, and it also helps me know what kinds of content you want to see on my channel, because I don't want to make content that you all don't like. And if you like me, please subscribe. I'd love to have you all here. Normally I post 2 to 3 times per week. Just depends on my schedule, how busy I am with work, school, etc., etc. And if you have anything that you want to comment about, any comments or questions on these palettes, anything like that, comment down below. I love chatting with you all about makeup and all that fun stuff. So with that, thank you for spending part of your day with me, and I will see you all next time. Bye!